Esteemed ambassadors, dear Indian friends, дорогие соотечественники, thank you for joining us today. 22nd of June marked the day of remembrance and sorrow, the day when 80 years ago the Nazi Germany, engulfed with the feeling of racial and ethnic supremacy, savagely intruded in the territory of the Soviet Union and commenced an unprecedented attack, burning out villages all along the way. However, united by the desire to protect their home and land, the peoples of the USSR, after long years of courageous fight, came out victorious. We will always remember the cost of that victory and will always give our tribute to the demised heroes of the Great Patriotic War, who made it possible for us and for our children to see the peaceful skies. Today it is our duty and responsibility to uphold the historic truth so that such horrific events would not occur ever again. Now I would like to turn the floor over to the Ambassador of the Russian Federation to India, His Excellency Mr. Nikolai Kudashev. Your Excellency.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. I still feel that I must use some Russian to begin this webinar. Уважаемые послы, дорогие мои друзья, дорогие соотечественники, дорогая госпожа Барман, у нас российская площадка, но, конечно, это общий день, это день нашей общей памяти. И я благодарю вас за то, что вы, невзирая на ваш трудный график, напряженный график, нашли возможность принять в нем участие, чтобы вспомнить наше общее героическое прошлое и заглянуть в наше общее, я уверен, в этом будущее. Спасибо вам большое за внимание, за то, что откликнулись на наше предложение. Honorable ambassadors, esteemed professors and students, дорогие соотечественники, dear friends. It's a great pleasure for me to welcome all of you at the webinar dedicated to the Day of Remembrance and Sorrow, which is coming today on June 22. It is the most tragic date in the history of our country and all of the former Soviet republics, I'm sure. 80 years ago, the Soviet Union faced the German Nazi intervention. The attack was truly unprecedented in terms of its destructive power. The enemy's army was the strongest, most mobilized and skilled one in the world, with the industrial, economic, and military potential of almost entire Europe working for it. However, by extreme means, nationwide mobilization and intensification of war, state and people's efforts, incredible courage and dedication, we managed to strike back. From the very first days, it was clear that the Nazi plan has failed. The Brest fortress was protected to the last drop of blood by its defenders, representing more than 30 ethnicities. Throughout the war, both in large-scale decisive battles and in the protection of every foothold, every meter of natives' land, we see examples of such unity. The war united our peoples for the sake of protecting our land and home. In the name of the common victory, which was no doubt the greatest victory in the history of our nations. To our deep sorrow, the crucial role of the Soviet Union in defeating the Nazis had the cost of the hardest irreplaceable loss. The military and civil casualties are estimated as over 27 million, including warriors of the Red Army who sacrificed their life in the battles, and people who perished during the siege of Leningrad and in the Nazi concentration camps. It is hard to find a family which was not scorched by the flames of war. Tonight we shall light the candles of remembrance in their honor. When we see today's attempts to forge and rewrite the history of that time, to bury the heroes in oblivion, we consider it our moral responsibility to uphold the historical truth. To forget the lessons of war means to lay the ground for new inhuman conceptions and atrocities. In this regard, we sincerely appreciate India's and CIS countries' consistent support to the resolution, combating glorification of Nazism, neo-Nazism, and other practices that contribute to fueling contemporary forms of racial discrimination, xenophobia, and related intolerance, adopted by the United Nations General Assembly at the Russian initiative. After all of these years, we feel that the solidarity movement born in India in 1941, following the Nazis' intrusion into the USSR, is still alive, having significantly contributed to building up the core of the Russian-Indian relations, which today enjoy the level of special and privileged strategic partnership. We have a responsibility to our past and our future to do our utmost to prevent those horrible tragedies from happening again. The lessons of the World War II, on which ground the United Nations was founded, must continue to guide our countries to defend the priorities of building a fair, just, and multipolar world order based on the principles of equal and undivided security for all, the primacy of international law, and the United Nations' central and coordinating role in global affairs. It is my sincere belief that by joining our efforts with Indian friends and other global partners, we can effectively confront the subversion of international relations, prevent destroying the modern day strategic stability system. A promising step in this direction is seen in the recent Russia-US presidential joint statement on strategic stability dated June 16, which declared predictability in the strategic sphere, reduction of the risk of armed conflict and the threat of nuclear war as shared goals. Dear friends, let's commemorate our great ancestors, perished heroes, victims and veterans of the Second World War. Let's preserve the memory of this dramatic page in history in order to serve the world for the future generations. Now I would like to suggest to bow our heads and observe 1 minute of silence. Thank you very much, dear friends. Спасибо большое, дорогие друзья. Thank you very much. Thanks very much to all Indian friends who are staying with us for this particular day. And please stay safe. Спасибо большое всем. Благодарю вас.
Thank you very much, Your Excellency. Now I'd like to invite Ambassador of the Republic of Armenia, His Excellency, Mr. Yuri Babakhanyan. Please, Your Excellency, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. Спасибо большое, дорогие друзья. In my short speech, I'd like first to present participation of Soviet Armenia in Great Patriotic War. For Armenia, as for the entire Soviet people, the war began unexpectedly. Only 2 decades have passed after all the ordeals befallen to Armenia at the beginning of the 20th century. The country was just starting to recover. Armenia more than ever needed peace and stability. However, the homeland was attacked by the enemy, and yesterday's peasants, engineers, students, and workers signed up and joined the Red Army. In Soviet Armenia, mass mobilization was met with overwhelming enthusiasm. The spirit of patriotism and the desire to defend the homeland was everywhere. 1 in 5 residents of Armenia left for the front line. Over the course of the war, more than 300,000 were enlisted from the Armenian Soviet Socialist Republic into the Soviet Army. Another 200,000 ethnic Armenians left for the front line from the other Soviet republics. The Armenians within the Red Army and Red Navy fought in the naval and land forces, in mechanized and infantry divisions, aviation and cavalry. More than 100,000 Armenians were enlisted into the Allies forces, mostly into the French army, as well as almost 20,000 in the United States Army. The losses of Armenians can be compared with the losses the United States incurred during the war. Over 300,000 people, which is equal to 1/5 of the population of Armenia in that period. 6 Armenian national divisions participated in the Great Patriotic War, 5 of which were formed after the outbreak of hostilities. Victoriously, the Soviet divisions formed in the Armenian Soviet Socialist Republic and the Armenian fighters enlisted in Soviet troops paraded to Europe, liberating countries and peoples from Nazism. Many have ended their glorious journey in Warsaw, Prague, and Vienna. The members of the glorified Tamanyan division marked the fall of the Third Reich by performing the Armenian Kochari folk dance under the walls of the defeated Reichstag in Berlin. During the years of war, 5 Armenians became marshals of the Soviet Union. Ivan Bagramyan, Marshal of the Soviet Union. Ivan Isakov, Admiral of the Fleet of the Soviet Union. Hamazas Babajanyan, Chief Marshal of Armored Forces. Sergei Khudyakov, Marshal of Aviation. Sergei Aganov, Marshal of Engineer Troops. More than 60 Armenian generals carried out command of all fronts in the war. Among them, 3 army commanders and 3 corps commanders. At the end of war, 83 army officers had been promoted to the rank of general. Over 66,000 Armenians were awarded with various state decorations for participation in the war. The title of the Hero of Soviet Union was awarded to 107 soldiers and officers. 27 Armenians became full cavaliers of the Order of Glory. As Georgy Zhukov, Marshal of the Soviet Union, said, in the victory over fascism, the Armenians from private to marshal immortalized their names with non-fading glory of brave warriors. Armenians were known not only as commanders and fighters of regular troops, but provided great contributions to the ranks of partisans and resistance forces in the Soviet Union and the European countries. In France, the guerrilla regiment of Alexander Ghazarian numbered 1,200 Armenians, and the members of the French resistance, Misak Manouchian became the national hero of France. The self-sacrificing work of those who supplied the front line with ammunition and food should also be emphasized. Facilities in Armenia produced strategically important products for the front, like rubber, copper, carbide, aluminium, and much more. Dear friends, preserving memory and paying tribute to heroes is an important component of our common victory. Today, almost 600 monuments dedicated to the participants of the Great Patriotic War are under state protection in the Republic of Armenia. The people of Armenia remember and honor all their heroes. May their memory be and glory be eternal. And in the conclusion of my speech, I would like to touch one very important aspect. Unfortunately, we are living now in an era of exponential growth of information, when historical facts are falsified and adapted to the geopolitical interest of certain parties. Unfortunately, this also applies to the great victory of the Soviet people, who, at the cost of incredible sacrifices and efforts, defeated Nazism, liberating Europe from the brown plague I'm deeply convinced that all forgers of history, like counterfeiters, will sooner or later be punished. Who sows the wind will reap the storm. Thank you very much for your attention. Спасибо большое за внимание.
Спасибо вам.
Thank you very much, Your Excellency. Now I would like to invite Ambassador of the Republic of Belarus, His Excellency Mr. Andrei Rjavsky. Please, Your Excellency.
Thank you very much. Большое спасибо за эту возможность. Dear colleagues, dear participants of webinar, dear colleagues ambassadors, уважаемые послы, уважаемые участники семинара. For me, it's a great pleasure to take part in today's webinar discussion dedicated to the 80th anniversary of the beginning of the Great Patriotic War, the most tragic period throughout the entire history of all our nations, including the Republic of Belarus. As you all know, Belarus was the first Soviet republic to confront the enemy due to its geographical position and strategic location. At the time of attack on June 22nd, 1941, around 8,000 Soviet soldiers were deployed in Brest fortress. The battle became fierce and protracted, lasted for many days. The defense for Brest fortress set an example of courage and resilience of the Soviet and Belarusian people in standing for their freedom and independence. Being totally occupied by foreign invaders, Belarusian people never stopped fighting. They struggled in the role of Red Army, in partisan detachments, in underground resistance groups. Victory over the enemy in the Great Patriotic War was achieved at the cost of great sacrifice and huge loss of life among Belarusian people. Over 1.4 million citizens were killed in the territory of Belarus in more than 260 places of so-called concentration camps. Nearly each third citizen of Belarus died during the wartime. Over 200 towns and communities out of existing 270 and almost 90% of buildings in capital Minsk city were ruined. More than 9,000 villages were completely swept out or demolished. No other single country had suffered such a human loss in terms of proportion of its population. The Nazi invaders left behind them trails of murder, looting, unprecedented destruction in the territory of Belarus. They planned to entirely annihilate the Belarusian nation, plunder its national wealth, and dismantle the political system of our country. They deliberately destroyed or barbarically plundered research centers, cultural institutions, and educational establishments. Many Belarusian, Russian, and Western European masterpieces were taken away. Only small part of above cultural heritage has been returned to Belarus. Today, just one figure, today 1 million volumes of books are still missing. Numerous monuments in each city, town, and village of Belarus are silent reminders of those terrible times. It was joint efforts of anti-Hitler coalition and resistance fighters that defeated the fascist Germany and its allies. One should always remember that it was Soviet Red Army, Soviet people, and I underline all nationalities of Soviet Union, who crushed the main forces of the fascist military machine with the assistance of Western countries' coalition. Regretfully, numerous attempts have been made recently to rewrite and distort history, to whitewash Nazism and justify its horrendous crimes. Today's generation must know the objective truth about the war, to realize the danger to world peace being posed to those who try to glorify fascism. Otherwise, the world may again confront a new global war in which there will be no winners at all. The lessons of that tragic period in our civilization history should be evaluated objectively. We need to make every effort to unite the world on the basis of equality, mutual respect, and universal democratic values. What is happening today on the western flank of Belarus totally out of line with the normal practice of international and interstate relations. Now we can see the growing external pressure on our country, including using sanction mechanism and numerous provocations. Almost each area of cooperation with our country is politicized by the West. And even today, our country, Belarus, again challenges new attempts to destroy existing independent state, to change government, president, to demolish all we did during the last 30 years of our independence. It's a new type of war, so-called hybrid war, but its aim are the same. Not creation, but destroying. Obviously, further escalation of the situation will not lead to anything good. No one can gain from this. Everyone will lose. This scenario has only negative consequences. We should not repeat the mistakes of the past. Our government is strong and will stand. Therefore, it is necessary to build relations based on equal and mutually respectful dialogue aimed at overcoming existing contradictions and strengthening the architecture of international security. I would like to call on all our foreign partners to support independence and sovereignty of Belarus. We have managed to defeat enemies during the Second World War and the Great Patriotic War. And we definitely managed to preserve our freedom and independence now. Thank you for your attention. Большое спасибо.
Спасибо вам.
Thank you very much, Your Excellency. Now I would like to invite Mr. Ambassador of the Republic of Kazakhstan, His Excellency Mr. Nurlan Zhalgazbayev, please.
Спасибо большое. Thank you very much. Your Excellencies, distinguished ambassadors, ladies and gentlemen, dear friends. I'm really delighted to join this webinar dedicated to a pivotal moment in our common history. I would like to express our appreciation to His Excellency Ambassador Nikolai Kudashev and our Russian colleagues for organizing this important event. Today, we mark the 80th anniversary of the beginning of the Nazi invasion of the Soviet Union. We call it the Great Patriotic War. Kazakhstan, along with other former Soviet republics, honors the memory of the heroes and victims of the World War II. It is essential to treasure the peace that we have inherited from our ancestors. We should never forget the great sacrifice of the peoples of the Soviet Union. 27 million of its citizens died in that war, 2/3 of them was civil population. 1,200,000 Kazakhstanis went to the battlefields of the World War II. Half of them gave their lives in the name of victory. Today, only 665 frontline soldiers and about 100,000 home front veterans are alive and live in Kazakhstan. None of them is left without state support and public attention. Many World War II survivors are no longer with us. They cannot tell us their stories in person. Yet we must ensure that we do not forget their experience and the lessons they had taught us. The horror they had suffered has made us forget our differences, put humanity and the people first. The Victory Day, which we celebrate on 9th of May, is a symbol of the glory and the great courage of the heroes who defended our rights to life, freedom, and bright future in bloody battles against the fascist invaders. The bravery, heroism, and selfless labor of all those who, in pursuit of our common victory, devotedly fought for the future of succeeding generations, will forever live in our hearts. Kazakhstanis, as well as nationals of all other republics of the Soviet Union, have fallen in battles, died of injuries, and worked hard on the home front. Hundreds of industrial enterprises were relocated to Kazakhstan, where tens of thousands of our fellow citizens forged the great victory. Every ninth bullet was cast from Kazakhstan's lead. Our farmers and pastoralists tirelessly provided troops with food. The names of the Soviet war heroes recruited from Kazakhstan, such as Ivan Panfilov, Bauzhan Mamышулы, Talgat Begeldinov, Sergei Lugansky, Aliya Moldagulova, and many others will forever remain in our memory. We owe a great debt to those who with their courage, perseverance, and patriotism won our peace and future. In this regard, we fully support the UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres' remarks to the General Assembly's solemn meeting on commemoration of all victims of the Second World War. He said that we cannot forget those who died in the Second World War. We owe it to them to learn the lessons of history. All our efforts must be aimed at consigning such mindless bloodshed to the past. Kazakhstan, remembering all the hardships brought by World War II, became a co-sponsor of the UN resolution entitled 75th Anniversary of the End of the Second World War, adopted by the General Assembly on 5th of November 2020. Unfortunately, nowadays, we are witnessing the increasing attempts of the revival of the ideas of Nazism and fascism in some particular countries. Kazakhstan, as one of the affected countries during the World War II, condemns these disturbing aspirations and calls for resistance to them. Therefore, we rendered our co-sponsorship to the UN resolution entitled Combating the Glorification on Nazism, Neo-Nazism, and Other Practices that Contribute to Fueling Contemporary Forms of Racism, Racial Discrimination, Xenophobia, and Related Intolerance. This year, Kazakhstan celebrates the 30th anniversary of its independence. 30 years ago, the people of Kazakhstan made a fateful decision. The country embarked on the path of sovereign development and building of an independent state. I'm convinced that our success has been made possible thanks to the vast experience accumulated to our veterans, representatives of the older generation. Dear friends, concluding my intervention, I would like to say that we must cherish the memory of our military glory, courage, and heroism of our people during the World War II, and preserve the historical truths for the future generations. Thank you very much for your attention.
Спасибо.
Спасибо. Thank you very much, Your Excellency. Now I would like to invite Mr. Ambassador of the Kyrgyz Republic, Mr. Arsen Isayev. Please, Your Excellency.
Thank you very much. Dear Nikolai Rishatovich, dear friends, excellencies, dear ambassadors, dear participants, first of all, our gratitude to the Russian Embassy for organizing this webinar. Today, we mark the 80th anniversary of the beginning of the Great Patriotic War, one of the most violent and bloody conflicts in the history, which claimed millions of lives. Today, in my country, it's a day of sorrow and remembrance. It's obvious that the further the years of the Great Patriotic War leave us, the more important the value and significance of the great victory become. Today's event reaffirms our common reasonable desire to learn from this tragedy and jointly safeguard a peace that's becoming fragile day by day. Dear friends, we are indebted to those who gave their lives on the battlefields for freedom, peace, and justice. The mass heroism of the Soviet people, their unity and devotion to the motherland became the main factor in the victory over fascism. Our ancestors, by their heroic example, proved that the unity of peoples is the foundation and a strong core that cannot be broken by any country infected with this disease of fascism. Fascism is an evil that was the ideological basis of a terrible and huge tragedy. Racial hatred generated by fascism led to terrible phenomena in the form of concentration camps, mass shootings, genocide, and the death of humans during the Great Patriotic War became commonplace. Today, the lessons of this war must be unshakable for the whole world. We must make every effort to ensure that this never happens again. And this is a common task for all countries and peoples of the world. We must all remember that no matter how technologically or economically advanced a country is, the idea of world hegemony based on the superiority of one race over others is doomed to failure. It's no secret that in nowadays there are certain attempts to revise this historical significance of our common great victory over fascism. In this context, the historical truths about those tragic events kept in the memory of our peoples and archival documents must be guarded and firmly defended. Attempts of falsify history, the causes and results of World War II, as well as the rehabilitation and glorification of Nazi criminals and their accomplices, must be stopped in the bud. The decisions of the International Military Tribunal in Nuremberg and the International Military Tribunal for the Far East have no statute of limitations and must be strictly observed. The UN General Assembly resolution on the fight against the glorification of Nazism is also very important. Dear participants, Kyrgyzstan people made the invaluable contribution to the defeat of fascism. A quarter of the population of my country didn't come back to the battlefield. But today I'd like to note it that old men, women, and children who worked in the area during the war years also made a great feat in the name of the victory and deserve boundless gratitude. Our republic supplied the front with ammunition, food, and clothing, and the most important strategies, raw materials of the defense industry. During the war, hundreds of thousands of refugees evacuated from the countries of the Soviet Union found shelter and food in the homes of Kyrgyzstan people. Ordinary Kyrgyz families shared their last piece of bread and clothes with the refugees. Many of the refugees found a second homeland in Kyrgyzstan, and orphans found new parents. Dear participants, today our sacred duty is to honor and protect our glorious war veterans and home front workers, to preserve the historical truths about the great victory, to take good care of military graves, memorial complexes, monuments, and obelisks in memory of those killed in the war against fascism, and by all efforts to preserve peace. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you very much, Your Excellency. Now I would like to invite Ambassador of the Republic of Uzbekistan, His Excellency Mr. Dilshot Akhat. Please.
Спасибо. Добрый день, уважаемый Николай Ришатович, уважаемые коллеги, друзья. Good afternoon, the honorable guests and participants. First of all, I express my gratitude for the opportunity to deliver a short speech on such an important date, 80 years from the invasion of Nazi fascist forces into the Soviet Union and the beginning of the Great Patriotic War. We honor the blessed memory of our fathers and grandfathers who showed real heroism in battles and selflessly worked for the sake of the freedom of today's peaceful days. Uzbekistan, along with all Soviet republics and progressive humanity, from the first days of the war, entered the struggle against fascism, mobilized all their forces and capabilities to defeat the enemy. In this regard, I would like to recall some of the most significant figures and facts established recently. It's known that in 1941, the population of our republic was over 6,800,000 people. During the war, about 2 million of them were sent to the front. More than 500,000 people dear to us, real heroes, and died in fierce battles. Every year on May 9th, on the Victory Day, we talk about this again. And these are not just numbers. Behind them, incomparable grief and suffering of our beloved mothers and grandmothers, courage fathers, and all our people. None of the words can express this pain. After all, over 500,000 lives lost at the war that caused millions of human tragedies. Thousands of women became widows, millions of children lost their parents. So many years have passed, but this terrible wound in the heart of our people will never heal. This endless grief and sorrow will not subside. The people of Uzbekistan, whose losses are enormous, made an invaluable contribution to the defeat of fascism. A striking proof is the fact that more than 200,000 of our soldiers and officers were awarded military orders and medals. More than 300 of them received the highest award, Hero of Soviet Union. All 3 degrees of the Order of Glory were conferred on more than 70 people. For example, my own grandfather has also participated in the war and fought with fascism in different theaters of war. In Hungary, he was wounded and further decommissioned. In those harsh years, when the fate of mankind was being decided, Uzbekistan turned into a reliable logistics base to support the front. The appeal, everything is for the front, everything is for the victory, became the main meaning, the leitmotif of the life of our country. Our people worked tirelessly day and night, uninterruptedly supplying to the front a large amount of food, clothing, weapons, and medicines. About 170 plants and factories were evacuated to Uzbekistan from the territories in a short time, were put back into operation. The Republic received more than 1,500,000 elderly people, women, and children who suffered from the war. Among them are over 200,000 orphans. During the harsh war years, our country, our republic showed an example of the highest humanism. The people of Uzbekistan showed disinterested and outstanding spiritual generosity and sincere concern of the people of different nationalities evacuated to the republic, shared everything with them, sometimes the last piece of bread. It's proven that Tashkent is a city of bread, Tashkent город хлебный, Uzbekistan is a land of kindness and mercy, Uzbekistan край доброты и милосердия. The courage and nobility of our people have been recognized all over the world, and we are rightfully proud of this. In recent years, a lot of work has been carried out to comprehensively study the huge contribution of our people to the great victory and to widely familiarize the public with the date obtained. And currently, scientific research is being carried out. Many literature works, films, albums, paintings, and monuments are being created on the memory of the losses on war. With a direct presidential decree last year, significant work was carried out to organize a wide range of activities of the Victory Park in Uzbekistan, in Tashkent. Over the past short period, despite the quarantine restrictions, hundreds of thousands of our citizens and foreign guests have visited Victory Park. It's noteworthy that among them are students and veterans, military personnel, citizens of the CIA countries and other states, members of official foreign delegations. Today, the State Museum of Glory operates in this park, which contains about 12,500 exhibits, and their number is constantly growing. Much is forgotten over time. This is a law of life. However, in this world, there is one great immutable truth: courage and bravery in the name of freedom of the motherland, peace and happiness of future generations will forever remain in the memory of the people. We'll always consider it our sacred duty to honor the veterans of the war and the labor front to perpetuate the memory. Thank you very much. Спасибо большое.
Thank you very much, Your Excellency. Our today's event also is attended by our Indian friends. For example, Dr. Girish Munjal, professor from the University of Delhi, is also ready to elaborate, share some views. Please, Professor. Are you there?
Good afternoon, Your Excellencies and dear participants. I first of all thank Honorable Mr. Kudashev for giving me an opportunity to give my views here. And I also thank the Embassy for organizing series of webinars on World War II, which began last year, I think in July 2020, when we deliberated upon the President Putin's article on factual lessons of World War II. And we talked about the facts, narratives, and even personal experiences, and the contribution of the former Soviet Union to save the humanity and save from the Nazi army. In April this year, I also talked in the last webinar about the reasons leading to World War II. I agree with all Your Excellencies that we need to preserve the memory of World War II. And in Delhi University, we teach a course called Russian Culture. And we began this course only last year. And it's an open elective course where students of various master's courses can join. Even if they don't know Russian, they can do this. And you will be happy to know that many students joined this course. Around 60 students were there last year. And this year there are around 50 students. And during this course, one of the main topics we talk about is the World War II. And I believe that the youth needs to know all the facts about the true facts and the honest facts about the World War II, especially because this will give them inspiration to prepare themselves in the new world order and with so many changing challenges which are happening in the world. I would like to express today my views on role of India and Russia in building global peace and security. And I will base my points on various statements made by both the countries, press statements, and by Honorable Mr. Kudashev in some of the press statements. And in the recently held event on Red Square, which was organized by the Center of International Trade of Moscow, where the program was moderated by former Ambassador of Russia, Mr. Trubnikov. As we all know that we are witnessing a new world order, new challenges on both national and international stage. Talking about India, in my opinion, this is new India under the strong and responsible leadership of Honorable Prime Minister, Mr. Narendra Modi. This is a new India on the path of self-realization, rediscovering our centuries-old heritage. And here I would like to compare Mr. Modi with Russian writer Anton Chekhov, as Anton Chekhov showed a mirror to his readers Mr. Modi has tried to show the mirror to the society, our Indian society. And this has we are now moving towards finding solutions to whatever problems we are facing. And as Chekhov believed that if you know what your problems are, that's why he showed the mirror to the readers, your problems will get solved almost halfway, and the rest of the solution will follow. So here is, in this process, the world has also realized the potential of India's role in betterment of the humanity. And here comes the Russian-India partnership, friendship, or the age-old friendship based on trust and love. Whatever may happen, whatever challenges both the countries are facing, they are changing from time to time. And these difficult times right now, we are facing totally strange kind of challenges. And in making a global peace process and more stable in the world. Russia and India, with their cultural heritage and diversity, can play a leading role in solving modern challenges. Both of the countries are working towards reducing global tension, increased cooperation based on mutual respect, transparency, and openness in international relations, especially in the spheres of economic development, ecology, poverty, equality among nations, and providing basic medical services. One of the points which has many times come forward is the non-interference in the internal matters of each other's countries. And the new India, I think, believes in ahimsa paramo dharma. Non-violence is the ultimate dharma. This is what India always believed in. But Lord Krishna also added a line after that, which is dharma himsa tathaivacha. So too is violence in service of dharma. Mostly in English, non-violence is understood in an absolute meaning, but in Sanskrit, it has a very relative meaning, and non-violence can be of various different kinds, like the violence can also be of various different kinds. So the basic idea is people working towards the peace or happiness of the humanity, they should be preserved. And for that, violence sometimes really helps and has to be there. And there, our Honorable Prime Minister, I think in India, we have a very strong belief in such process. Next point which I found was the solution found to such are multipolar world or polycentric world. And here CIS and regional cooperation with Russia and India can play a very important role. The next point which came out was no tolerance to terrorism. Any kind of terrorism, whether it's chemical weapons, biological weapons, nuclear weapons, or any kind of cyber crimes also. India and Russia, I believe, should put in efforts and resources in bringing balance between man and nature. You would all agree that this imbalance between man and nature has created many problems. And this ecological imbalance has to be brought back. And like India always believed that we should take only what is necessary from nature. If you don't take excess of it, there's what the catastrophe lies. And many of our solutions will lie in making the balance between both the countries. I would thank the embassy again for giving me the opportunity. And I will also take the opportunity to request your excellencies to share with me the videos and material on World War II with contribution of various former republics of Soviet Union in the Russian or in English, so that I can share it with my students and keep the memory alive of World War II. Thank you, sir.